Good morning and welcome back to the Good Morning Minute podcast. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and I'm excited to kick off season 2 with a theme that touches every single one of us: relationships. That's right, friends. Relationships are at the heart of our human experience. They shape who we are, how we grow, and how we show up in the world. Whether it's family, friends, romantic connections, or even the relationships we have with ourselves, each one carries lessons, challenges, and moments of pure joy. This season, we'll sit down with incredible guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and insights on building, nurturing, and even healing relationships. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into conversations that inspire connection and growth. Now that I've set the stage for today's conversation on relationships, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest. She brings a unique perspective and a wealth of experience to the table, and I know her insights will leave you feeling inspired and equipped to navigate your own relationship with more intention and understanding. So, without further ado, please welcome Crystal Robinson to our Good Morning Minute podcast. Welcome, Crystal. I am so excited you are here today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm honored to be part of your podcast.
Well, let's just jump into it. Let's start the conversation with getting to know you a little bit and what brings your interest to the topic on relationships.
So, I have been an engineer for over 34 years, climbed the ladder, dealt with all the stress, culminated in a vice president for many years of running a corporation and an engineering firm in that corporation. And all the stresses of that brought lots of illness and chronic things in me, including lupus and a brain tumor.
Mm.
And I had to learn how to get through that. And most of that was the relationship that I had with myself. And that's why relationships are super important in what I do now. I'm a national board certified health and wellness coach, a Chopra certified total well-being coach, a holistic nutrition practitioner, and I also teach meditation and mindfulness. And I've been married for 30 years this year with my husband that we've been together for 36 years. So I've dealt with the ups and downs of that personal relationship, as well as dealing with all the relationships in all my clients' lives, their relationships with their friends, their relationships with their families, but it all comes back to their relationship with themselves.
I love that. So tell me, in your own either professional or personal perspective, Crystal, what do you think is the foundation for a healthy relationship?
I think really it is knowing what your core values are and understanding what's connected to that and how much you love yourself and where your judgments are on yourself controls how much you put on others. So if you feel like you're constantly judging or criticizing or maybe reacting to other people that are doing that, it's because those things that are happening outside of you are bringing up stuff inside of you that you haven't dealt with. Somebody's, complaining about you or maybe gossiping, and you immediately just want to blame them and say it's their fault. Well, usually when people do that, it's all because it's something inside of them that's bothering them. And this is the only way they know how to express it. And you really have to learn to, okay, why is this bothering me? And start really figuring that out. Because maybe it's rooted in like something from childhood, or maybe it's rooted in a specific relationship that you've had in the past and what that brings up. And you never really processed that and understood, well, what do I have to learn from this? And what has it taught me? And what do I actually really want and need, as opposed to what other people think I want and need?
I like that. So let's unpack this relationship with self a little bit more. Uh, where does like what does that mean? Let's just start with that. What does a relationship with self entail?
Mostly it's, can you sit in silence with yourself and your thoughts? Or you have to be constantly busy, right? If you can't actually sit in silence and be okay with that and just connect with the present moment and maybe your spiritual well-being, whatever that may be, then there is so much stuff that you're hiding that you just don't want to face. And if you can't do that, how can you have a relationship with somebody else if you're not okay with yourself?
Hmm.
I think the first steps are being able to do that, being able to understand the brain works in really mysterious ways. It's it's crazy, it's manipulative, it's all these crazy things, but it's also wonderful and beautiful and so capable. So really understanding what's happening with your brain when you're having like those inner dialogue conversations, and understanding that, okay, this is because my brain needs to work these things out. And it's not just because, oh, just because my brain is telling me this, it doesn't mean that it's 100% true. Or maybe my beliefs aren't 100% true. And that's what's controlling my brain because it wants to be safe. It wants to be comfortable. And
Mhm.
really, the best part to get to you is whenever you feel uncomfortable, go through it.
Mm. And that is hard because when we get uncomfortable, we definitely want to push back and go, oh, that is a barrier for me. That is a no-go zone. But the beauty about comfort, because we always tell ourselves like, oh, this is the worst thing that could happen. And we list all the worst things. But I've learned in my own self journey is to ask myself, but what is the best things that could happen if I cross over? And, just to get your perspective open. So, how do you work with clients, or how do you get there to where a comfort zone? So you know that you're growing, you know that you're stretching, you're comfortable stepping over that line and stepping into the unknown, taking a leap of faith, if you will. How do you get to that place?
Really, it's a slow step by step process, right? It starts with doing it with somebody else, somebody you
Mm,
trust, whether that's a coach, a therapist, a trusted loved one, or friend. Really like processing your thoughts, like, what do you think about this, and being vulnerable and just opening up, and just finding one little situation. And it could be really simple. It could be just, this person said this and I just didn't feel good. Why didn't I feel good? What was so bad about that? Or I got defensive, or I over explained everything because I was trying to prove myself. And you got to realize that the only person you need to prove yourself to is yourself. Once you are comfortable with that, and really in your own integrity, it changes everything in your life. But it is a process. You have to do it one little conversation, one little issue, one little discomfort at a time, and really analyzing that and saying, okay, what do I really want and need? And is this serving me, or is this holding me back? And most of the time, there's so many thoughts and feelings that are holding us back. And it's just, okay, is this serving me? Why am I holding on to this, it's just keeping me safe. Okay, I just want to be safe, but then I'm stagnant and I'm not moving. So you have to really figure out which things you want to move past and which things you're not ready to do that yet with.
mm. Yes, I've been there. I
We all
definitely
have.
understand. Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
human.
We are human beings, and and so how do you tap into that side of yourself? Like, that you were born for a purpose. And so how do you tap into that motivation? Because I know barriers are hard to overcome sometimes, especially the emotional barriers. When you're talking about self-development, how do you help your clients start to peel back those barriers and really see them for the truth that they are?
Well, the way I start every conversation with all of my clients on what I consider the 8 dimensions of wellness. And those are all the different pieces of your life that are connected to whether you're happy, healthy, and fulfilled. And that can stem anywhere from your environment to your professional to your spiritual and your health. That's just some of the 8 dimensions. We start there and we say, well, where are you now? And where do you want to be? What's the vision of what you want your life to be? And then once we see that, then we have to figure out, well, how do we get there? And what are those blocks that are keeping us from getting to really where we want to be, or how we want to feel, or how we want every day to be? Like if you're feeling stagnant and stuck, why? What is it that you
Mm,
really want out of life? Or you just don't know. And then if they don't know, then we really start looking into, well, let's create a purpose statement. Let's find out what your core values are. Let's find out who inspires you, what inspires you, what those bases are for what you want your legacy to be. And legacy isn't physical, it's
mhm,
actually a feeling, right? And when people leave us, we remember how they made us feel,
mhm,
not, what they gave us, or, what they left us, or any of those things. And I've lost, people really close to me. And that's how I remember them is what did they teach me? How did they make me feel in certain environments? And maybe in bad environments, I felt a certain way, but what did I have to learn from that? So really it's a whole process of like looking at your whole life, but then really figuring out for me what works for me. Because everybody has a different definition of what their vision is regarding their health, their happiness, and their fulfillment. Some people might want to just really be in the spiritual realm. Some people really want to just be in the career realm. Like, where are you? And does that change? Yes, it does change over your life. It's changed for me. I climbed that corporate ladder and it was a big deal for me as I was also a wife and mother and did all of those things and just ran myself basically to the ground. And
Mhm.
now those things aren't as important to me. Really, what's important to me now is giving back and helping other people learn how to adjust their thinking, their mindset, their emotional intelligence to really just be content and happy and enjoy life and then go towards the things that fulfill them.
Yes. How do they get to that point of self-acceptance and forgiveness? Because sometimes life is hard for all of us and we make choices for sure. And with those come consequences. So how do you help them get to that place of self-acceptance and self-compassion and love?
A lot of that comes down to processing your emotions,
Hmm.
really actually feeling them. I've been trained in somatic processing and how you actually can process an emotion and where it feels in your body. And I'll sit with a client and we'll go kind of into a like a light meditation and go into their body and talk about whatever that circumstance that came up that's bothering them. Because it starts with each experience. You are made based on all your experiences throughout your life. They all create who you are now. And the continued experiences that you have will change who you are later. So if you can change what your experiences are going from today forward, then who you want to be will be better off for it. So going through each emotion is part of the process. Maybe they are really upset over a specific argument with a parent or a sister or a friend. And what was that argument? What was entailed in that? What was the feelings behind that? Was it anger? Was it sadness? Was it grief? There's so many different emotions that we feel. And then where do you find that in your body? How is it affecting you? And why do you really feel it? And really going into it and feeling it process through your body. It actually takes 90 seconds for your body to emotionally process a feeling. It's a
Mm.
part of the somatic processing. And most people, when they feel something like that lump in your throat, when you feel like you're going to cry, that it's really painful and we feel it. And then we hold it back and it's like 10 seconds. We're like, no, 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 I can't feel that. Right. But if you actually let it out, you might cry for a minute, two, maybe more, but then it's gone. And it's when you hold those processes back, that those feelings back, that it becomes dis-ease in the body, which for me became disease. And it does for a lot of people. We're holding in all of our emotions. We're holding in all of our feelings because we're afraid of what other people think. Well, you have to
Mm-hmm.
get over the fact that what other people think is more based on their own lives than it is yours.
Oh, that's some truth right there. If that didn't set someone out there listening free. But it is true. It's definitely a reflection of their own inner well-being and their own self-love for sure. Uh Man, that was a lot. And I agree because I've done some self-work myself. And I recall some of those challenging moments where I have goals that I want to obtain. And it's so foreign to me because I've never had anyone in my life pattern that out for me. And so I'm having to be the person to create this new identity, this new persona. And it's like, wow, I'm scared. And you feel those emotional barriers that want to bring you back down to that comfort zone and say, no, you're not worthy of that and you're not worthy of this. Some of that mindfulness meditation for me uh, also manifested in some dreams that I had of some like parent guilt and uh, just other dreams that I had about childhood trauma and whatnot. How do you help someone truly process that and tear away from the emotional bond that it has on them to sit there and say, okay, yes, this did happen to me as a child, or these were the choices that I made as an adult, but they no longer hold, like, there's no emotion that's holding me captive. So now I can for sure see myself as this person I envision in my goal.
Yeah, really, that comes back to holding space, right? Being there,
Mhm,
listening, and really validating their thoughts, their experiences, and their emotions. Because
mhm,
most people, that's all they want. And your brain isn't going to validate it for you. You need it
mhm,
outside. And that's why writing is so great, because once you get it out on paper or once you speak it, whether it's to somebody or maybe you just talk to yourself in the mirror, some people do that, it makes it more tangible,
mhm,
right? Which validates the thought. Sometimes your brain comes up with crazy thoughts, right? And it's okay to validate it. It doesn't mean you're going to act on it,
mhm,
right? Okay, I hear you, brain. I think you're being a little nuts right now, but we're going to go over here instead. And the processing part and getting through that is more about understanding their own power within. And a lot
mhm,
of that comes from, okay, where have you had troubles in the past? Like in your example of a goal, right? A goal that nobody in your life did. And it
mhm,
looks very uncomfortable and you kind of have no idea how to get there. And your brain's like, no, this is too hard. I don't want to do that. Right. Even though
mhm,
it might not be that hard, you just brain doesn't know how to do it. It's really like going back into, okay, where is my resilience? What am I good at? What are my superpowers? Looking at past things that you've had to get through. We all have something. It could be
mhm,
bullying in school, it could be, traumas, it could be medical, it could be, sexual, it could be any type of trauma that has happened in your life. We all have them. Some of them are really small and they just compound over time. Some of them are like really big ones that kind of pop in like catalysts that make you change. And looking at, okay, what did I do? What am I really good at? What are my superpowers? And how can I put that forth in this new thing I want to do? Like this new goal, this new intention that I have. What superpowers do I have? And how can I lean into those to help me get through the ones that I might not? That
mhm,
really opens up people to understand their own power, their own inner knowing. We all have it. We all have some form of power. And, you get in a collective and everybody has a different superpower. Everybody's better at something than another person, but it
mhm,
doesn't mean that you're not worthy. This is what makes everybody, unique and authentic when you
mhm,
live in your superpower. It's why, villages work, very small villages work, because you have one person that's, really good at spirituality and another person that's, really good at health. And maybe they're the doctor or the medicine person. And then you have
mhm,
another person that's really good at hunting. And then you have another person that's really good at protection, and those are all their superpowers that make up that village that keep everybody safe and living in harmony. So it's finding the things that are in you that are your superpowers so that you can put them forth in everything you do.
mm. Yes, I do. I agree. Uh, and so what does it actually look like for someone who gets through it all, gets through the steps, gets through the process? How how does that manifest in their lives? Like, what are some things you've witnessed as a coach for these individuals that have successfully done this process?
Yeah, I've seen it not just as a coach in my clients, but also in myself. And it's
Yeah.
a constant thing. It's an awareness over how I'm feeling, what's going on in my thoughts during certain circumstances. I've had clients come back to me that, always had a difficult relationship with a specific parent. And after we've worked through some of the things and they've started to understand like how they process it, how they talk, how they feel about it on the inside and really what might be going on with the person that they're having problems with, and seeing that it's that what's coming at them is a reflection of them and not on them. And then they actually understand, okay, so what I'm reflecting back is my own insecurities that are coming from what that person's saying. And then they just become really aware. And those people come back to me and they're like, I saw my father this weekend and we didn't argue. And I felt good when I left. Like it
Mhm.
just changes everything around you and you start seeing things in different perspectives. You start losing your judgments and just being more aware. And I've told somebody this in the past, and people think I'm a little nuts when I say this, but bear with me. Worst case scenario, right? We have tons of mass shootings and things happening in the United States. It's
Mm-hmm.
really crazy, right? And, our immediate reaction, of course, is the people who have lost their lives unnecessarily and their families and all of that. That's immediately where we go. And the immediate judgment is just on whoever did that and how awful they are and evil and whatever labels you're going to put on it. But like I said, this is an extreme kind of case of non-judgment and really looking at, well, why did that person get to the point where that's what they were doing? What happened in their lives and how did they, get to that point? How was it compounded and what support did they not have? Those are the things that make people do these crazy things. And what was it? It's not usually medical. It's usually a process of constant traumas or other things in their lives that they haven't processed or dealt with that's just come out that way.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start losing your judgment on people, you start to see things in a different way. And if people come at you, you're like, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling that way today. How can I help? As opposed to, don't talk to me that way. And you get all like
Mm-hmm.
defensive. It changes your relationships. It changes how you go forward in everything in your life. Even if you like go into the store and that person in the store is really grumpy and they're, scanning your groceries really angrily. And you could just be like, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. I hope you have a better day. And it might
Mm-hmm.
flip that switch. They could have, not been able to pay the rent or, maybe their kid's sick or maybe their, mom's in the hospital. You never know what's going on with people. And most people are just quick to make a judgment as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just stepping back and being curious. I wonder why.
I like that. And it's being inquisitive. It's having enough self-awareness that emotionally you become intelligent about yourself and how you engage with others and those relationships. I mean, it benefits not only your own perspective of who you are and who you can become, but also the perspective, that open-minded perspective of when I engage out there in the world, I don't know what they're bringing to the table. And it helps almost guard you from picking up those emotional things that, like you said, get angry, get defensive. You kind of guard yourself from that and you don't let it affect you. And you just kind of like a duck, let it roll off because it's, a duck with water, let it roll off. And you continue on with your day and your joy is never lost and your spirit's never broken because you are confident in who you are. And I think that is the power of self-love in a nutshell. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah.
Yeah, it's
What,
like a shield, right? It's like
uh-huh.
your own shield that like I am in control of me and me only. I can't control everything around me, whether it's beautiful or what I consider crazy. I can only control here,
Mm-hmm.
but I can
Mm-hmm.
also control what I let in.
Mm. That's true. Yes, that's true. You control those things as well. And so um let's talk more of so what's the upkeep like with self-love? I mean, you learn all these practices, whether it's mindfulness, journaling, uh, what's that upkeep? Because I know us humans like to revert back to old habits.
We do. It really is finding those things that work for you. I don't prescribe something specific for my clients. I
Hmm.
help them figure out what routines and what practices keep them where they want to be. And sometimes, they'll finish coaching with me, they'll go off into the world, and then I'll get a call like 6 months yet later or a year later. I am totally out of where I want to be. I need to come back. And 2 or 3 sessions later, they're like, oh, I remember now. These are the things that help me. These are the things that work for me. And for some people, it's walking in nature. For some people, it's a meditation practice or it's going to the gym or, whatever it is for you that makes you come in and love yourself. Maybe that's just taking time in the morning to have your tea or coffee and read a book or be with your cat. Whatever that is, it's important that you do it regularly and you take care of you because you can't take anybody care of anybody else until you take care of you.
That's right. Got to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can your children. That's so true.
Yes.
Um, Okay, so as we get ready to kind of wrap up here, I'm going to ask this one question. If you could give any piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Really figure out what your core values are. Make sure they're yours and not those of your parents, grandparents, or those that were conditioned onto you by others. I think I always went forward, with what everybody else's goals were for me or what everybody's expectations were for me,
Mm.
as opposed to figuring out what mine really were.
Oh,
So
yes.
really look at that.
Yes. Oh, I can just imagine if my younger self heard that, I'd be like, what? Okay. It's so many years to different my life would look for sure. Uh, okay, Crystal, do you have anything out there? I know you mentioned a book. Where can we get that? What's the title?
Oh yeah, you can, if you want a signed copy, you can reach out to me on my email, which is at crystalmoonholistichealing.com. So you can contact me through my website. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under Crystal Moon Holistic Healing. I'm on LinkedIn under Crystal Robinson, my name. So this is an anthology. It's called The Change: Insights into Self-Empowerment. It's an international bestseller. It's got 20 different authors with all their stories from around the world of empowerment and coming through stuff. So it's really cool. It's a really cool book. So you can get that. And I also offer one-on-one coaching. I have my Mission Me 2.0 program, which is a 6-week intensive coaching program, which is group and individuals. And I also do speaking engagements and workshops and podcasts like this one.
Well, I will say I'm super thankful for your participation on my podcast here, Good Morning Minute. And I'm sure if there was someone out there listening and they just were like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start or I'm struggling, what would be a piece of advice you'd give them?
Stop and breathe.
Mm.
Calm, right? Get out of the craziness and reach out to somebody, a coach, a therapist, a loved one, a friend. Really reach out to somebody and be vulnerable. You'll be surprised at how far it'll get you.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Crystal, for being a guest and just bestowing upon us your wisdom and your experience. I know I am more empowered and enlightened by the information that we discussed today. All right, everyone, you know what that means. It's a wrap. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.